January 24th, 2006, Orlando, Florida. The morning sun was rising slowly over a quiet apartment complex. Cars were parked neatly in rows. Palm trees moved gently in the breeze. It looked like the start of another normal day. But inside one apartment, something was very wrong. Jennifer Kesse was always punctual. Friends described her as organized, responsible, the kind of person who never missed work. But that morning, Jennifer didn't show up. Her phone went straight to voicemail. Her coworkers assumed she was running late. Her parents thought she might still be asleep. But by the afternoon, a terrible realization began to grow. Jennifer had vanished. No warning, no phone call, no message, just gone. Days later, investigators would find her car abandoned at another apartment complex, and when they checked the security cameras, they saw something chilling. A mysterious figure walking away from the vehicle. But in the most frustrating twist imaginable, the person's face was completely hidden by the camera's gateposts. 3 frames. That's all investigators had. 3 frames of the only suspect in one of the most haunting disappearance cases in American history. To this day, no one knows who that person was, and Jennifer Kesse has never been found. Before the headlines, before the theories, before the investigation that would span nearly 2 decades, Jennifer Kesse was simply a young woman building her life. She was 24 years old, bright, ambitious, and deeply loved by her family. Jennifer grew up in Florida in a close-knit household. Her parents described her as independent from a young age. She worked hard in school, graduated from the University of Central Florida, and quickly began building a successful career in finance. By 2006, Jennifer had already achieved something many young professionals dream of. She owned her own condominium in Orlando. The complex was called Mosaic at Millennia, modern, quiet, and close to her office. Jennifer enjoyed the independence, but there was one thing about the complex that sometimes made her uneasy: construction. Several units in the building were still being renovated. Construction workers moved through the property daily, sometimes early in the morning, sometimes late at night. Jennifer had mentioned to friends and family that she occasionally felt uncomfortable walking through the parking lot alone, but she never imagined something truly dangerous could happen. Because Jennifer was careful, she called her parents almost every day. She kept routines, and she was planning something exciting, a vacation with her boyfriend to the Caribbean. Just days before her disappearance, Jennifer had returned from visiting family. Everything seemed normal, happy, full of plans for the future. No signs of trouble, no signs of fear. Just a young woman living her life. Until the morning, everything stopped. January 24th. The day Jennifer Kesse disappeared. The morning Jennifer Kesse disappeared began like any other weekday in Orlando. The alarm clock likely rang sometime before sunrise. Jennifer was known for keeping a strict routine. Wake up, get ready for work, drive to the office, call her parents in the evening. It was a pattern she rarely broke. But on January 24th, something interrupted that routine. Investigators later tried to reconstruct Jennifer's final known movements. The night before had been ordinary. Jennifer had spoken to her boyfriend on the phone. They talked about their upcoming vacation. They laughed. They made plans. Nothing sounded unusual. Nothing sounded like someone who was about to disappear. The call ended sometime around 10 p.m. That was the last confirmed conversation Jennifer ever had. The next morning, something strange happened. Jennifer never arrived at work. At first, her coworkers thought she might simply be running late. But Jennifer was not the type of person who arrived late without warning. Hours passed, no call, no email, no explanation. Concern began to grow. Then something even stranger occurred. Jennifer's car was gone from the parking lot of her condo. Her phone was off, and no one had seen her leave. Police would later believe Jennifer likely left her condo around 7:30 a.m. that morning, but something happened between her front door and her car, something that stopped her from ever reaching work. The distance between her apartment and her vehicle was less than a minute, just a short walk across the parking lot. Yet somehow, Jennifer vanished within that tiny window of time. It was as if she had disappeared into thin air. 2 days after Jennifer vanished, the investigation took a disturbing turn. About 1 mile away from Jennifer's condo sat another apartment complex. It was called Huntington on the Green. Residents there began noticing something unusual. A black Chevy Malibu parked in the lot. The car had been sitting there for days. One resident finally reported it. When police ran the license plate, they felt a chill. The vehicle belonged to Jennifer Kesse. Investigators rushed to the scene. The car was locked, no signs of struggle inside. But there were subtle clues. The driver's seat had been pushed back. Jennifer was only about 5'8". The seat position suggested someone taller had driven the car. Even more strange, the car appeared carefully parked, almost deliberately placed there, as if someone wanted to abandon it quietly. Then investigators checked the apartment complex's security cameras, and what they saw became one of the most frustrating pieces of evidence in modern true crime history. At around noon on the day Jennifer disappeared, a person was seen walking away from her vehicle. The figure appeared calm, not rushing, not looking around, just walking away. But here's the chilling detail. As the person walked past the camera, metal fence posts blocked the view of their face. Frame after frame, their face was hidden perfectly behind the posts. 3 frames. That was all investigators had. 3 frames of the only person connected to Jennifer's missing car. And somehow, their identity remained completely hidden. The footage became known as one of the most haunting surveillance mysteries ever recorded. Because that shadowy figure might be the last person to ever see Jennifer alive. Once Jennifer Kesse's car was discovered, the investigation intensified. Detectives from the Orlando Police Department began retracing every detail of Jennifer's life. They started with the most obvious question: what happened between Jennifer's front door and her car? The distance was barely 100 feet, yet within that short walk, something had gone terribly wrong. Investigators searched the parking lot for evidence. They checked nearby dumpsters. They interviewed residents. They knocked on doors across the complex, but the answers were few, and the silence was unsettling. Jennifer's condominium complex had something unusual happening at the time. Several buildings were still under renovation. Construction crews moved in and out daily. Workers from multiple companies were present on the property. Some lived temporarily in empty units. Others arrived early in the morning before residents left for work. Police quickly realized something troubling. There were dozens of workers on the property, and very few records of who they were. Some contractors had incomplete employee lists. Others had workers who were undocumented. Tracking them down became nearly impossible. Investigators attempted to interview every worker they could locate. Many had already moved to other job sites. Some had left the state entirely, and some simply disappeared. Meanwhile, Jennifer's family refused to give up. Her parents traveled to Orlando immediately. They helped organize massive search efforts. Volunteers covered neighborhoods, flyers were posted across the city, billboards displayed Jennifer's face. The message was simple: missing. But as days turned into weeks, the trail only grew colder. As the investigation continued, detectives began developing several possible theories. The first focused on the construction workers. Jennifer had mentioned to friends that she sometimes felt uncomfortable around some of the workers at her complex. They would stare at her, sometimes whistle as she walked past. Nothing overtly threatening, but enough to make her uneasy. Investigators wondered if someone had been watching her routine, watching when she left for work, watching when she returned home. If someone had planned an attack, the morning parking lot would have been the perfect moment. Few witnesses, limited visibility, a quick opportunity. Another theory considered the possibility that Jennifer had been followed. Maybe someone from outside the complex had targeted her. Jennifer was attractive, successful, and lived alone. Detectives examined her workplace, her social life, her boyfriend, her friends, but no evidence suggested anyone close to her was involved. Her boyfriend cooperated fully with investigators. His alibi checked out. There were no signs of conflict in Jennifer's personal life, no threats, no enemies, no suspicious behavior, which left investigators facing a chilling possibility. Jennifer may have been the victim of a random predator, someone who saw an opportunity and acted. But the only person who could confirm that theory was the mysterious figure captured on the surveillance camera, the unknown person who parked her car. The only visible suspect in the entire case, and the person whose identity remained hidden behind a row of metal fence posts. Among all the evidence investigators collected in the Jennifer Kesse case, one piece stood out above everything else: the surveillance footage. The camera at the apartment complex, Huntington on the Green, had captured the person who abandoned Jennifer's car. The footage was taken around 12 p.m. on the day Jennifer disappeared. At first glance, the video seemed promising. A person walks into frame. They appear calm, almost casual. No signs of panic, no signs of rushing. The individual parks Jennifer's black Chevy Malibu, then exits the vehicle. They close the door and begin walking away. But then something incredibly strange happens. As the person walks past the camera, their face disappears, blocked not by shadows, not by darkness, but by the metal fence posts positioned in front of the camera. Frame by frame, each moment their face should be visible, another post blocks the view. Investigators slowed the footage. They analyzed it carefully. They enhanced the image. But the result was always the same. 3 frames, only 3 frames where the suspect is fully visible. And in each of those frames, their face is perfectly hidden. It was as if the camera itself refused to reveal the truth. Investigators did manage to determine a few details. The suspect appeared to be between 5'3" and 5'5" tall. They were wearing white clothing that resembled a worker's uniform, and they walked with a relaxed, confident posture, which suggested something unsettling. Whoever abandoned Jennifer's car was not afraid of being seen. That meant one of 2 things. Either they believed no one would recognize them, or they had already gotten away with it. Years passed, then more years. But the mystery surrounding Jennifer Kesse never faded. The case received national attention. It appeared in documentaries, crime shows, news investigations. Yet despite all that exposure, the truth remained hidden. Jennifer's parents refused to stop searching. They pushed investigators to keep the case alive. They hired private detectives. They followed leads themselves. At one point, the family even took legal action to obtain the full case files from the Orlando Police Department because they believed someone, somewhere, knew something. Over the years, thousands of tips have been submitted. some promising, most leading nowhere. And the surveillance video still haunts investigators, because the unknown person captured in that footage may hold the key to everything. Who was that person? Why did they have Jennifer's car? And most importantly, what happened in those few moments between Jennifer leaving her apartment and reaching the parking lot? A distance of less than a minute, a window of time so small, yet large enough for a life to disappear. Today, Jennifer Kesse would be in her 40s. Her family still waits, still hopes, still believes someone will come forward. Because somewhere out there, someone knows what happened that morning in Orlando. And until that truth is uncovered, the disappearance of Jennifer Kesse remains one of the most chilling unsolved mysteries in America. A mystery hidden behind 3 frames of video. 3 frames that may have captured the only person who knows the truth, and a young woman who simply vanished without a trace.